Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
It was 1968 and I was known for having trained my German Shepherd extremely well. On this particular day, I had one of the neighborhood boys come to my home to help me out with yard work. He was a very nice young man and polite to the 9th degree. After finishing the rack-in, I had him come in for something to eat and drink. As we sat and talked about the next day's work, a knock came at the door. I answered to see two men who demanded we came to pick up Earl for questioning. To take the Earl to the police station for questioning without showing some kind of warrant was a red flag in my book. Earl was only 15 and I refused by saying I will bring Earl home and have his mother bring him there. They tried to push their way in, but my dog interceded with a nasty growl and showing her teeth. They backed off and left. Not the end of the story though. I brought Earl home and told his mother what happened. She told me Earl had delivered papers and one of the clients accused him of breaking into her home. This had happened during the time Earl was in school and his mom verified it with the teachers after this woman had made this accusation. The woman insisted it was Earl and she had a friend who was on a police force and would have him put in jail. I went home after leaving Earl's home and decided to walk over to see my mom who lived 2 streets away. As I crossed one road, a man hastily came up to me and said, "You're coming with me," as he grabbed my arm. Now mind you, I never went many places alone without my dog, who was only a short distance from me. I yelled for my dog to get him, and she latched onto his arm, seriously biting him, and he let go. He then drew a gun and attempted to try to shoot my dog. I grabbed her up and ran with her to my mother's house as quickly as I could, and the man left in his car. Later I found out this man was a detective and needed stitches from the bite. He was deemed at fault as he didn't show his badge. Lucky us. This happened some time ago, about 4 or 5 years. My mom was once hit by a car next to my house. While we were waiting for my cousin to finish talking with her followers in an IG direct, she is a pretty big influencer, about 40k followers. As we started pulling out, there was no one in the street. But halfway out comes a speeding car at 130 km per hour. I kid you not, in a 60 km per hour area. When you see my car pulling out, they hit the brake. It did stop a bit, yes, but it still collided with us and left a dent in our car. My mother had backed when she saw the speeding car but couldn't help not getting hit. A woman in her 40s after the collision comes out and starts berating my mother through her window. I still remember the alcohol smell as I was in a car, and she smelled truly like a bottle of Jägermeister herself. She started spurting out racist comments as my mother is from another place with a thick accent, though she's from the same country, while calling the police. Lo and behold, the cops come rolling, and this massive idiot starts complaining to the police in a condescending tone towards us. And every time my mother wanted to explain her situation, she just started incoherently screaming so she couldn't be heard. It looked like a circus, and while my mother was talking to the police officer who looked like he was about to hit someone, I went up to talk to my cousin. I asked her if she had seen what happened, and she said yes, as she had seen it in her background while she was in a direct and she was commenting on it right now. She had it on the direct and I told her to save it just in case. And boy, did I hit it right. When the police officer finished with my mother, he just said to pay the drunken lad's insurance. My mother was furious. She wasn't the one speeding. The cop said that he hadn't seen what happened, and it looked like she had pulled out without watching for anyone. My mother started getting really upset and angry and started demanding to file an internal complaint, but he just walked away into his car and just went off. I approached my mom just as a drunken lady was spitting on her, just out of spite, saying that it was an expensive car and that she didn't know who she was. Of course she sued. Now, I wasn't at the court date as I was at school, but my mom told me what happened. So here it goes. My mother took a duty lawyer and went straight to court. She presented the direct my cousin had done. That clearly showed the speeding and a collision. The jerk had tried to sue for damages, no insurance policy, and emotional damage. P.S. She didn't even ask for it, we do have it. She sued her for speeding, unruly use of law, damages for the car, racism, and emotional damage. We didn't once said she was drunk, as it wasn't clearly visible, and they just shrugged it off. We got to defend ourselves. Her lawyer did well, almost got us. She said she had been speeding and that she didn't hit the brakes soon enough, but then she opened her mouth. What the hell did you expect me to do, huh? You can't ask a drunk person to do more than that. You're just being jerks because you don't have insurance, right? She jumped back into her seat with a smug face. Her lawyer looked at her mortified, and the judge looked at her with wide eyes. My mother just smiled without believing it. Then a judge says, "So, let me put this straight. You were drunk?" "Yes, I just got out of my husband's company meeting." You know what? I think I don't need to hear anything else. My mother won a lawsuit. This lady was a footballer's wife and they had been at a party with all their team. She was pissed drunk and went home in one of their cars and then hit my mother's car. We won a chunk of money and she was sent on probation and some jail time. Because the drunken part just added public disturbance, public peril, and negligence. Here you go, some freaking karma. This witch had it coming. It did. I forgot to mention this, and I answered it in the comments. This cop was a lady's friend, and darn, they pulled this on us. But we won because, well, we had evidence. I can just wonder how many times this had happened, and what poor families were the other victims, because if this cop did this with us, then they could have done it with other people as well. About 9 or 10 ago, I was 17, turning 18 in 2 months. I met a young man, 22 years old, a former US Marine, good-looking guy, smart and funny. We talked for a while before we went on an actual date. The dates were always wonderful. In May 2010, I met his 3-year-old daughter on her birthday. She was wonderful. I also met Dipra, the mother-in-law. I met her that day as well. She was not so wonderful, a witch to be exact, but whatever, you know. Early in our relationship, we got engaged. Young and dumb me was ecstatic. I'm still in high school at the time, 11th grade to be exact. Because of medical conditions, epilepsy, I was held back in 9th grade. I write down literally everything because my memory is absolutely horrid. So I had to find that notebook to make sure I had the details correct. Anyways, at 17, early 18, I was this skinny little thing. 5'2", 120 pounds and very much gifted. We got engaged and I moved out of my mother and stepdad's house. I moved to a city about an hour away, transferred schools to a high school that was huge. I've always gone to small town schools. I was terrified. Right after I turned 18, I was put on a seizure med that made me gain 80 pounds in a month. I had never been this big and went into a very deep depression. For an entire year, I refused to take pictures with people, didn't dress nice, and I stuck with basketball shorts, sweats, and t-shirts. We get an apartment soon after I moved to the city, and I have a job at the local home store and he has a job at a restaurant. 7 months later, we get married. People were congratulating my mother on becoming a grandparent. I had never been pregnant, that's how big I had become. I graduate high school and start working full-time. Stefan had started working 20 plus hours overtime at just a little fast food place, which obviously should have been a red flag for me at the time, but wasn't. After we were married, Stefan had informed me that he was dishonorably discharged from the military, that he never even made it out of boot camp. Because a guy pissed him off and he hung the guy out of a barracks window by his feet, but ultimately pulled him back in. So then I realized that not only is this man violent, but manipulative as well. I had already got this man's initials tattooed on my wrist. Yes, I know, stupid as hell. Stefan starts showing up at home with more and more money. We furnished the apartment with a new 55-inch TV, new furniture, game consoles. Deborah starts treating me badly like I had done something wrong, accusing me of being a gold digger and taking advantage of her sweet, sweet son. Then started messaging my mother and posting on Facebook that I was cheating on Stefan. Stefan showed up one evening after work, a little nervous. He had gotten a call to show up at a meeting with his boss the next morning. He drops me off at my job that next morning, which is right across the parking lot from his, and then goes to his meeting. A few moments later, I see a cop car show up and leave a few minutes later. And who happened to be in the back? You got it, Stefan. I found out that he had embezzled over $3,000. I moved home with my mom and stepdad. Deborah continued to harass me. While her boyfriend would be texting me and asking me to have a relationship with him, I made sure I had screenshotted everything. I got Stefan's phone from the police and started going through it. Messages, Facebook, and so on. I found out that not only had he been cheating on me with a 16-year-old girl, but he had also made a fake Facebook account and had been messaging my little sister who was 12 at the time, asking her for inappropriate favors. Then I found multiple dating apps on his phone and with hundreds of messages to multiple women asking about relationships and marriage with him. At that point, I was furious and extremely done. I'm very family-oriented and would give my life for my little sister. So I also screenshot that Facebook account and all of the messages to not only my little sister, but to the 16-year-old as well. And I emailed them to myself. I gather all of the screenshots, sort them out, send screenshots of the messages to my mom, and send screenshots of everything to Deborah. Screenshots of her boyfriend's conversation, the 16-year-old's conversation, my little sister's conversation, to show her that her sweet, sweet son was not only a pedophile but a manipulative little jerk who embezzles money like a dummy from his job. When she showed up to meet me, her face was priceless. It was a mix of disappointment and disgust. She apologized to me about everything she had said, and I went about my way. She broke up with her boyfriend and kicked him out on the street. He was from a state very far north of where I live. I took the screenshots of the messages to my sister and the 16-year-old to the police. He got in even more trouble and not only had to spend 3 months in jail for the embezzlement, but had to spend 2 years in prison and have to register as a harasser for the rest of his life. He apparently had met a young girl somehow during the final days of his stay in prison and moved in with her and her parents. He was 16 as well when he got out. His mother and brothers had disowned him, got contact, and he lost any custody/visitation with his daughter. I knew I still had the screenshots in my email. So I found out who the child he was living with and figured out who her parents were and sent him the screenshots. Let them know he's a harasser and had talked with a different 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. They had kicked him out into the street as well. Last I heard, he was couch hopping and jobless. This was as of last year. As a result of everything, I am now in a very wonderful marriage. Almost 4 years with a man I've known for 13 years. Him and Deborah's boyfriend both lost a lot and I feel no regret in any way, shape or form. I did a lot to keep children safe from him. I'm one of those people who feel like there is only one cure for a pedo. But we will keep that violent comment out of here. My father worked as a police officer starting in early 1950s in a mid-sized city. He walked a beat in the north part of the city. Yeah, it was before police cars and radios. When he got to a bay phone, he used his dime to call the operator. She refunded his dime and connected him to the station to report. And all was well. As the years went on, he decided to try for promotion. I remember him studying many thick tomes for long periods. He finally got promoted to sergeant and he transferred into homicide investigation. As a homicide investigator, he was often called upon to interview people currently held within a city jail. The city jail was headed by a captain at the top. It was jail policy that the investigators wait until it was convenient for the jail staff to provide the inmates requested for an interview. This meant long wait times usually. Inmates get fed, go to the nurse's office or to court, talk to their lawyers, moved into other cells and so on. Then it happened. A man wearing 2 prosthetic arms killed another man by striking him in the head with one of the arm's hooks. According to that, the man wore a type of harness and elastic which caused the hooks to function. My dad took the arms and placed them inside the evidence room as murder weapons. Then, he dropped the suspect off at the city jail. It took about a week and my father was summoned to the district attorney office in City Hall. When he entered the office, there sat the captain of the jail. Needless to say, the jail captain was livid. The DA asked my dad if he placed an armless man in city jail. My dad told him yes. The DA asked where his arms were. My dad explained they were possible murder weapons and had been placed in the evidence locker for testing and safekeeping. The jail captain interrupted and stated the arms had to be returned immediately because his staff was having to feed the inmate and wipe his butt when he used the bathroom. He accused my father of deliberately taking action to cause issues due to the jail policy of assigning homicide investigators long wait periods to interview folks held in a jail. This was the first inkling the DA had of what was happening in a jail. He told the captain the homicide investigators were acting in his name, carrying out their duties and were to be an override to any jail priority short of full-scale rioting. And if that was an issue, he would gladly walk down the hallway with the captain to the chief's office to discuss it further. The captain looked solemn but agreed reluctantly. Then the DA asked my dad if it would be possible to give the inmate at least one arm so he could function while in jail. My dad said it could be done if he wished it, and that was how the new jail policy came out. Years ago, I worked as an assistant manager for a retail store in art supplies. My store was in a fairly affluent area, and we got lots of bored housewives who dropped $500 because they wanted a hobby. So one year, the company offered a one-day-only coupon for Black Friday, and the store was swamped. Saturday was swamped, Sunday was swamped, and I'm running a register and trying to get people through as rapidly as I can. And that's when she arrives. We will call her Debbie. Debbie throwing 3 bags full of merchandise on my counter, and she says, "I want to return all of these stuff and rebuy it." Okay, can I ask why? People sometimes did this because they had used the wrong payment method or something, but I needed to verify. "I bought all of these stuff on Friday at a store 1,500 miles away, and their tax rate is higher. So I want to return all of it and buy it here to pay lower taxes, you know? Now hurry up, I've been driving all day and I'm tired." This is going to be a pain. On a very busy day over what comes out to about $2.50. I confirm with the other manager who agrees this is ridiculous, but we just need to do it. So I started her return, but the totals didn't match. So I have to call and talk to the on-call support rep. He tells me that I can only refund my state's tax and not the other amount. The solution is to manually adjust prices until the tax and totals match. As I'm doing this, Debbie is complaining about how she's tired from driving. I'm taking too long, her dog, her feet, her back, whatever. But eventually I get everything balanced and process her return. Okay, the return has been processed. It's about time. You'd be done already if you weren't so stupid. Now I want to buy it all again. Q. Malicious Compliance Part 1. The thing about art supplies is they can be small and in multitudes. And that's what she had purchased. Individual pencils, brushes, pastels, sheets of paper and so on. Sure thing, ma'am. But I want to be absolutely certain I ring everything up right. Since I'm dumb, you know? So with a sweet smile, I take everything out of the bags and ring them up one by one. Of course, some stuff doesn't scan, so it has to be looked up. As I go along, she's getting more and more agitated. The insults get more frequent and now everyone in the other lines are glaring at her. At last, everything is rung up and I give her the total. Q. Malicious Compliance Part 2. Remember that coupon from the beginning of the story? The code has been pulled from the system, so her new total, with a reduced tax rate, is significantly higher than the old one. Debbie loses it, and she starts screeching. It's not even words at this point, only noise. Sorry ma'am, but it looks like you used our exclusive coupon on Friday. Unfortunately, that coupon is no longer valid. Your new total will be X amount. She kept screaming, but eventually she paid, snatched her items, and left. It was a good day to be retail.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.